You've tried this before, haven't you? You bought the plants. You dug the holes. You watered them faithfully for 2 weeks straight. And then by July, half of them were dead. The other half looked like they had given up on life. And your garden looked nothing like the picture on the plant tag. Maybe you walked through the garden center in spring, full of hope, picking out flowers that looked incredible in those little plastic pots. Maybe you spent a Saturday hauling bags of soil, kneeling in the dirt, doing everything the YouTube videos said to do. And then a few weeks later, you walked outside and felt that sinking feeling. It happens to people who follow every single instruction on the plant tag down to the letter. And here is the truth nobody tells you. It is almost never your fault. It is the plants. You picked the wrong ones. There is a completely different category of plants out there. Plants that do not care if you forget to water them. Plants that survive heat waves, cold snaps, and your busy schedule. Plants that actually get bigger and better every single year while you basically ignore them. Plants that were built for the way real people actually live and garden. And April is the exact window to put them in the ground. Number 1 on our list is the Shasta daisy. And if you have ever killed a flowering plant and walked away feeling like maybe gardening just is not for you, the Shasta daisy is the plant that will completely change your mind. These are the classic crisp white petals radiating out from a bold, bright yellow center. Timeless, cheerful, instantly recognizable. The kind of flower a child would draw if you handed them a crayon and asked them to draw a flower. There is a reason for that. They are the visual shorthand for what a flower is supposed to look like. And they are one of those plants that makes people stop and stare when they are blooming in full force. But the real magic is not in how they look. The real magic is in how forgiving they are. They spread in 2 ways. First, through clumping, meaning the root mass gets bigger and bigger each year, producing more and more flowering stems on autopilot. You do not have to do anything. The plant does the work. Second, through gentle self-seeding, meaning they drop seeds that germinate and create new plants nearby without you lifting a finger. You start with one, and within a few seasons you have a sweeping mass of white and yellow that looks completely intentional and completely stunning. People will assume you planned it. You did not. The plant did. They begin blooming in early summer and keep going all the way into fall. That is months of continuous color from a single planting. Plant them in full sun with well-draining soil. They are relatively drought-tolerant once established, and incredibly easy to divide in spring to multiply your plants or share with neighbors. Deadhead the spent blooms regularly, and they will reward you with even more flowers. If you are the kind of person who has bought a flat of annuals every spring, just to watch them fizzle out by July, this is the plant that breaks that cycle. Few plants give you this much beauty for this little effort. Moving on to number 2. Number 2 is Coreopsis moonbeam. The name alone tells you something. Moonbeam. And when you see this plant in bloom, you will completely understand why. It produces a cloud of delicate, buttery yellow daisy-like flowers, sitting just above a fine feathery mound of foliage. Soft, elegant, and absolutely covered in blooms, from early summer all the way into fall. It does not shout for attention the way some bold flowers do. It glows. It softens everything around it. It is the plant that makes the rest of your garden look better, just by being next to it. What makes Coreopsis moonbeam exceptional for spreading is that it grows via underground stems called rhizomes. These rhizomes creep outward beneath the soil, quietly establishing new growth points and expanding the plant's footprint season after season. You will look up one summer and realize the small plant you put in 2 years ago has tripled in size, and you barely did anything. That is the dream. That is what you have been chasing. And here is the part that makes nervous gardeners breathe a huge sigh of relief. It is remarkably tough. Coreopsis moonbeam is heat-tolerant, drought-tolerant, and basically thrives on benign neglect. The plants that have made you feel like a failure in the past are the plants that need babying. This is not one of them. You do not need to fuss over it. You do not need to be on top of it. Plant it in full sun. Make sure the drainage is decent, and then let it do its thing. It will fill in your garden beautifully, attract pollinators all season long, and look stunning against almost any other flower color in your landscape. Have a hot, dry spot in your yard where every other plant you have tried has died? Coreopsis moonbeam is your answer. That awful corner that bakes in the afternoon sun and kills everything you put in it. That is exactly where this plant wants to live. Number 3 is Salvia Maynight. This plant is drama. Pure beautiful architectural drama. It sends up tall, upright spikes of the most intense, deep violet blue flowers you will ever see in a garden, rising above a base of dark aromatic foliage. The color is so rich and saturated, it almost looks unreal. People who see it in person for the first time usually do a double take. They cannot believe a plant can actually produce that color. And from a design standpoint, those vertical flower spikes create incredible contrast when planted next to mounding or spreading plants. Garden design can feel intimidating when you do not know what you are doing. Salvia Maynight fixes that almost instantly. Drop it next to almost anything and it makes the whole arrangement look intentional. The vertical lines, the saturated color, the texture of the foliage. It does the design work for you. But here is what really makes Salvia Maynight the right plant for someone who has been burned before. It is one of the toughest perennials you can grow. Drought-resistant once established, handles heat extremely well. Deer tend to leave it alone because of the aromatic foliage, which is huge. If you live somewhere, deer are constantly eating everything you plant. Rabbits also tend to leave it alone for the same reason. And pollinators absolutely love it. Bees and butterflies flock to those flower spikes in huge numbers, which makes your entire garden healthier and more productive. The pollinators that visit your salvia will pollinate everything else nearby. You get a ripple effect. Salvia Maynight typically begins blooming in late spring and continues into summer, and cutting it back after the first flush of flowers often triggers a beautiful rebloom. 2 waves of those incredible violet-blue spikes from a single plant. Plant it in full sun with well-drained soil and give it room to breathe. This is a plant that earns its place in the garden every single season. Number 4 is Black-Eyed Susan Goldsturm. Bold, reliable, long-season color that practically takes care of itself. Black-Eyed Susan Goldsturm produces masses of golden yellow flowers with those striking deep brown, almost black centers that give the plant its name. The contrast is vivid, eye-catching, and genuinely beautiful. It is the kind of color that reads from across the yard. Your neighbors will notice. People driving by will notice. And it blooms from midsummer all the way into early fall, exactly when a lot of other perennials are starting to wind down. So it fills that mid to late season gap perfectly, which is huge if you have ever had a garden that peaked in June and looked exhausted by August. That August slump is one of the most common frustrations for new gardeners. You finally get things looking nice in early summer, and then everything fades just when you want to be outside enjoying it. Black-Eyed Susan Goldsturm solves that problem completely. Goldsturm spreads in 2 ways, just like the Shasta daisy. It expands through clump division, meaning the root mass gets larger over time. And it self-seeds, meaning it drops seeds that sprout into new plants the following season. Leave a few seed heads on the plant through winter, and you will be rewarded with seedlings in spring. The plant essentially propagates itself for free. Birds also love those seeds, so you are supporting wildlife at the same time. Goldfinches in particular will perch on the dried seed heads through fall and winter, and watching them do that on a frosty morning is one of the genuinely magical moments of having a garden. Planted in full sun. It tolerates poor soil and dry conditions surprisingly well once established. It naturalizes beautifully in meadow-style plantings, cottage gardens, or along borders. And because it is so vigorous and easy to divide, within a few years you can have large sweeps of it for essentially no additional cost. And this is the plant that experienced gardeners call the ultimate survivor. Number 5 is yarrow. And the thing that separates yarrow from almost everything else on this list is how completely undemanding it is. This plant does not want your attention. It does not need rich soil. It does not need regular watering once established. It does not need much of anything except sunlight. If you have ever felt like you just do not have the time or energy that gardening seems to demand, yarrow is the plant that proves you wrong. It is the plant that says the problem was never you. The problem was the plants you were trying to grow. Yarrow does not care if you are busy. It does not care if you go on vacation for 2 weeks in July. It does not care if you forget about it for an entire month. It just keeps going. It gives you flat-topped flower clusters in yellow, white, pink, or red, depending on the variety, held above feathery silvery green foliage that looks beautiful even when the plant is not in bloom. That feathery foliage is a bonus most people overlook. Even without flowers, yarrow adds texture and softness to a garden bed. Yarrow spreads aggressively through 2 mechanisms. Its rhizomes spread laterally underground, pushing new growth outward year after year, and it self-seeds prolifically, dropping large numbers of seeds that germinate and fill in gaps around the parent plant. To cover a large area quickly with very little effort and cost, yarrow is one of the fastest and most reliable ways to do it. If you have a big empty bed and a small budget, yarrow can fill it within 2 seasons. Bees and butterflies visit the flowers constantly throughout the season. The flat flower clusters are essentially landing pads for pollinators, making it one of the most useful plants for supporting a healthy garden ecosystem. One thing to keep in mind, because yarrow spreads so enthusiastically, divide it regularly to keep it from overtaking neighboring plants. But that is not a problem. It is a gift. Number 6 is the daylily. And if you think you know daylilies, think again, because the variety available today is absolutely staggering. The daylilies your grandmother grew were probably just orange. The daylilies available now are a different world entirely. Trumpet-shaped blooms in every color imaginable. Rich burgundy, soft peach, bright orange, pale lemon, deep purple, vibrant red, creamy white, and endless bicolors in between. There are ruffled varieties. There are spider varieties with long, thin petals. There are doubles that look like roses. There are miniatures and giants. Whatever color or style you can imagine, someone is breeding a daylily that fits. The blooming season is extraordinary. Waves of flowers from early summer all the way through to mid-fall, especially when you plant a mix of early, mid-season, and late varieties. That is a pro move. Plant 3 or 4 different daylilies with staggered bloom times, and you have continuous color for months. Each individual flower lasts only one day, which is where the name comes from. But each plant produces so many buds on so many stems that you barely notice. There is always something new opening. Daylilies spread through their tuberous root systems, which expand outward and produce new fans of foliage each year. Established clumps get larger and larger, and can eventually be divided into many individual plants. A single small clump planted in April can become a substantial flowering mass within 2 to 3 seasons. Plant them in full sun to partial shade. Give them decent soil and reasonable moisture early on, and then largely leave them alone. Remarkably tough, pest-resistant, and drought-tolerant once established. Daylilies are one of those plants you can plant and almost forget about, and they will still be there thriving years later. For sheer color range and low-maintenance performance, nothing beats the daylily. Number 7 is Catmint Walker's Low. Do not let the name fool you. Walker's Low is not low in quality or performance. It is actually one of the highest performing, most versatile perennials you can grow. The name refers to a location in England where it was discovered, not the quality of the plant. It produces an absolute abundance of lavender blue flowers over silvery green aromatic foliage that smells wonderful when you brush against it. That fragrance is something you will not get from most flowering perennials. Walk past it on a warm afternoon and you get this gentle herbal scent that makes the whole garden feel more alive. It begins blooming in late spring and continues right through midsummer. And shearing it back after that first big flush of flowers often sends up a second wave of blooms in late summer and into fall. 2 flowering windows from one plant. From a design standpoint, Catmint Walker's Low is incredibly versatile. It works beautifully as an edging plant along pathways and borders where its mounding, slightly sprawling habit softens hard edges perfectly. It pairs brilliantly with roses, with ornamental grasses, with almost anything. The lavender blue color is a natural complement to almost every other flower color, which means you cannot really make a bad design decision with it. Drought tolerant, making it ideal for water-wise gardens. Deer tend to avoid it because of the aromatic foliage. Pollinators, particularly bees, are drawn to it in enormous numbers. On a sunny day when catmint is in full bloom, you can stand next to it and hear the hum of bees working through the flowers. It is one of the most peaceful sounds a garden can produce. It spreads steadily through clump expansion, filling in its designated space reliably over time without becoming invasive. That last part matters. Some spreaders take over. Catmint stays where you put it. This is a plant that rewards you generously for very little investment of time or money. Number 8 is garden phlox. And what garden phlox brings is fragrance. Big, bold, intoxicating fragrance from large dome-shaped flower clusters in shades of pink, purple, red, and white. Most flowers look beautiful, but smell like nothing. Garden phlox is different. When garden phlox is in full bloom, you can often smell it before you even see it. Step outside on a warm summer evening and the scent drifts across the entire yard. It is one of those experiences that makes you stop, take a deep breath, and remember why you wanted a garden in the first place. Those flower clusters are enormous, sometimes 6 inches or more across, packed with individual florets that together create a visual impact that is hard to match. From a distance, A row of blooming garden phlox looks like billowing clouds of color. Garden phlox blooms in mid to late summer, making it a valuable player in the garden precisely when you need something to carry the show. Combined with black-eyed Susan, these two plants alone can completely solve the late summer slump that frustrates so many gardeners. It spreads by pushing outward from the central crown, gradually filling more and more space in your border or bed. In good conditions with regular moisture and good air circulation, it can expand quite significantly over several seasons. One thing to keep in mind: garden phlox can be susceptible to powdery mildew, particularly in hot, humid conditions. That has scared some gardeners away from this plant in the past, but the solution is simple. Choose mildew-resistant varieties. The newer cultivars are dramatically better than the old ones. Plant in a location with good air circulation and water at the base rather than from overhead. Do that, and you will have years of spectacular fragrant blooms with none of the problems your grandmother might have dealt with. It also makes an outstanding cut flower, so you can bring that incredible fragrance indoors as well. A single stem in a vase on the kitchen table fills the whole room with scent. To engage multiple senses in your garden, not just sight, but smell, garden phlox is non-negotiable. Number 9 is bee balm. And the thing that makes bee balm genuinely special is not just its flowers, though those are spectacular. Vivid spiky tubular blooms in blazing red, soft pink, rich purple, and bright white. Unlike anything else in the garden, the flower shape alone is striking. They look like little exploding fireworks of color. What makes bee balm truly special is what it attracts: hummingbirds. The tubular flower shape is perfectly designed for hummingbird feeding, and those tiny birds will visit again and again, all season long. If you have ever wanted hummingbirds in your yard and felt like they were impossible to attract, bee balm is the answer. Plant it once, and they will find it. They will come back every year. They will become regulars. That alone is worth the price of admission. Butterflies love it too, and bees, as the name suggests, are completely devoted to it. Bee balm spreads quickly and enthusiastically through underground rhizomes, meaning it can fill a large space relatively fast. This is both its greatest strength and something to be aware of. To keep it contained, divide it every 2 to 3 years. To naturalize a large area, give it room and let it run. Plant it in full sun to partial shade with consistent moisture. It appreciates more water than some of the other plants on this list, but in return, it provides one of the most dynamic and wildlife-friendly spectacles your garden can offer. When a hummingbird hovers at your bee balm on a summer morning, you will understand exactly why this plant earns the final spot on this list. That moment, that single moment, is what gardening is supposed to feel like. So there you have it. 9 fast-spreading perennials to plant this April to finally build the garden you have been trying to grow for years. A quick recap so you have them all fresh in your mind. Number 1, Shasta Daisy. Classic white and yellow, blooms for months, spreads through clumping and self-seeding. Number 2, Coreopsis moonbeam. Soft, buttery yellow, heat and drought tolerant, spreads via underground rhizomes. Number 3, Salvia May Night. Deep violet blue spikes, tough, a pollinator powerhouse. Number 4, Black-eyed Susan Goldsturm. Golden yellow with dark centers, blooms mid to late season, self-seeds generously. Number 5, Yarrow, the ultimate survivor. Flat flower clusters in multiple colors, spreads aggressively by rhizomes and seeds. Number 6, Daylily. Incredible color range, waves of blooms from early summer to mid-fall, spreads by expanding root fans. Number 7, Catmint Walker's Low. Lavender blue flowers, aromatic, drought-tolerant, deer-resistant, beloved by pollinators. Number 8, Garden Phlox. Large fragrant clusters in mid to late summer, spreads steadily, doubles as a cut flower. Number 9, Bee Balm. Vivid tubular blooms, a hummingbird magnet, spreads quickly through rhizomes. Here is the key thing to remember about all 9 of these plants. April is the sweet spot because the soil is warming up, but the brutal heat of summer has not yet arrived. That combination gives newly planted perennials the ideal conditions to establish strong root systems before they have to deal with stress. Roots established in cool, moist spring soil are dramatically more resilient than roots trying to get established in dry summer heat. This is the part most gardeners get wrong. They wait too long. They get busy in spring, life gets in the way, and suddenly it is mid-June and the soil is already drying out and the temperatures are climbing. Plants put in the ground at that point are fighting an uphill battle from day one. Planting these 9 in April gives them a head start that pays dividends for years to come. And once they are established, most of these plants will thrive on minimal care. That is the whole point of choosing tough, well-adapted perennials. You work smarter, not harder, and your garden finally rewards you instead of frustrating you. If you have been one of those people who has tried and failed before, this is your year to break the pattern. These are not the divas. These are not the prima donnas. These are the workhorses. The plants that show up, do the job, and keep showing up year after year. Found this helpful? Give it a thumbs up right now. It genuinely helps more gardeners find this content. And to anyone not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button and join our growing community of gardeners all working toward the same goal: more beauty, more abundance, and more joy from their outdoor spaces with less stress and less wasted effort. New gardening content drops every single week, and every video is packed with practical, accurate, actionable information, just like today. See you in the next one.